So for those who don't know me, I'm Ivet, working as a marketing director at Cebu and also a PMC member of the Apache CloudStack project, and will be moderating the panel. So let's discuss a bit about the VMware to CloudStack migration. We will start with some opening questions to our panelists, but if you have any questions, we would appreciate to make it a little bit more engaging and to include also questions from the audience. And my first question to the panelists is actually, were you expecting that this will happen, and what would be the effects out of it? Who would like to start?
Okay, I will start here. I mean, this was not the first acquisition Broadcom did in the past, and they're following a pattern. So we saw this kind of coming, but to be honest, we underestimated the impact. So when you look at some numbers of their event in Las Vegas, their attendees dropped significantly. So we thought some impact is happening, but not in this, not that huge.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, in most of last year, when the deal was sort of being rumoured, people were starting to think, something, and looking at the previous behaviour of what had gone on with Broadcom, the previous acquisitions. And we were seeing people putting CloudStack in as like an abstraction layer, just in case, because they don't really want to change hypervisor and virtualization technologies, because that's an absolute pain. And then I don't think anybody could quite predict the extent and how quick the licensing changes came in January. I was completely gobsmacked, especially around the service provider space, all the stuff that Marco was talking about earlier. And, you know, somebody was showing me Broadcom's stock price earlier, and it was like, yeah, it's working, right? That's capitalism for you, and that's a debate for another time. But yeah, I think it has come as a surprise. And also, you know, in this world, in the CloudStack and the virtualization world, we expect that to have an impact, but it's the ripple effects out throughout the industry of backup providers and network providers and all these things, because virtualization had basically been set in stone for 15 years and it's all completely ripped up. So interesting times, I think.
One thing you trigger there is with the backup providers, for example, Veeam, they were heavily invested in VMware. And I was recently in a talk with them. They wanted us to migrate to or start using VMware. We use Acronis a lot for our backups. And I said, well, do you have KVM support? And a few years back, they would say, no, we are VMware. And now they said, it's on our roadmap. We are working on it. So there's also a benefit to this that, you know, their backup providers are looking into KVM more seriously because they're losing all the VMware business. So that's a bonus.
Obviously, we're here for a CloudStack event, but I'm wondering, except of CloudStack, what are the alternatives on the market, and what makes CloudStack the best, according to your alternative, for companies to migrate?
Or say nothing. There is obviously Proxmox, which is probably the best one-to-one fit for it. But to be honest, we also have a Proxmox plugin, and one of my colleagues was presenting it to our company, and so we get to know how it looks like and where to check for bugs if we ever have to support it. And I was baffled because it was so simple. It's like my work manager. It's a GUI. You can start VMs, maybe migrate them, and that's it. And I didn't even think that it's so simple. So I would say if you're migrating away from VMware, why not take the chance and upgrade to a better solution, basically, where you have more options to do stuff. And then to, I don't know, I mean, maybe if you know what CloudStack can do, you can manage so much things, and you can't just do that with Proxmox.
Maybe it was actually to discuss a little bit maybe it works to discuss a little bit like what's the difference between virtualization and cloud, and actually why CloudStack is more for companies which would like to have a real cloud.
Wido will tell you a lot about the difference in virtualization and cloud. You've told me for years about the difference. But actually, what's quite interesting at the moment with this situation is I think you're seeing a lot of people using CloudStack just as a virtualization manager. And it's opened up a use case for CloudStack, which has never really been seen before. I've got I need a virtualized environment that isn't VMware, and that's probably going to be KVM or XCP or something. And I need something that can manage it. Do you want to go into the details of the difference?
That's the thing you see with VMware, where people say, oh, you're using VMware, you're using KVM. Well, no, VMware is a suite of all kinds of functionality with the vCloud Director or vSphere. I never use VMware, by the way, so I might be mixing up all kinds of products over here, but it's a lot more. And just moving to just KVM, then the question is it going to be Proxmox, OpenStack, CloudStack? What are you using? So VMware is just a hypervisor. And I think many people using VMware were using it just for plain virtualization. Deploying a VM, entering a static IP address, going through the next, finish in their Windows installation. And they need to adapt to the cloud situation. Although it's 2024, CloudStack is 11 years old in the Apache Foundation. But I still encounter a lot of people, because we do many acquisitions, who say they have a cloud, but they're using plain virtualization with tagging VLANs into boxes and then saying, yeah, we have a cloud. And like, no, that's not really the way a cloud is, API driven. So, but it's opening eyes for a lot of people that they can build their own API driven solution locally. But then there's still the challenge, cloud init, no, that's too difficult. Can I just make a template which I can copy a lot of times and deploy a new VM? And I'm like, go ahead.
And I want to I have a similar opinion than Rene about it. This is Proxmox is really a one-to-one swap to other technology with the same functionality than the VMware infrastructure or Cosmos. So this is a chance now for businesses to evolve, to go to the next step. So this is, of course, what should I say? What other thing would I say? Because we providing private clouds for customers. So instead of stay to an on-prem installation, bring it into a data center where you have better fire protection, better protection against, for example, now the water situation in Austria and stuff like that. So which is better for power outages and stuff like that. Use this time to migrate your infrastructure to a really data center-based cloud environment.
And because you are all from different types of businesses, according to your observation, what type of companies are migrating away from VMware, and what is the typical migration journey?
Me again. Lots of different businesses. I mean, I suppose in a way, if there's one vertical, it's the service provider space, because that's where the changes in the licensing model were felt most. But I think a lot of people here might have read the story about a certain very massive American telco who are actually taking Broadcom to court, going through a migration at the moment. There's all sorts of organizations, because to me, it isn't just about the organizations that have been directly affected. It's about the organizations who have just lost trust and confidence in that organization and say, okay, maybe we haven't been caught at the moment, or our lawyers are strong enough at the moment, but it's going to come sooner or later. And in terms of the migration path, I think the common denominator with all of them is this is not going to be a big bang migration. This is too critical in most organizations. You're not lifting, 500,000 virtual machine instances and migrating those overnight. So it's taking time. It's doing it zone by zone, data center by data center. But the overall process is pretty much the same. People are converting VM instances from one format to another, often looking to keep some VMware stuff in place because there's certain apps and things which still require it.
I want to add one thing there. So as I said, we are acquiring quite a lot of companies. We're talking with one company right now. I'm not going to name them nor where they are, but a few numbers about them. They have 8 million in revenue, and their VMware cost currently is about $500,000 a year. But they're under the new licensing, it would jump to about 2.5 million a year. So, and this entrepreneur, he really wants to sell his company to us because he says, I have no alternative. I need to move away from VMware, but I need somebody who helps me moving away from VMware. So he wants to sell his company because running it on his own and doing such a migration, it's a task he cannot complete. Of course, there's a benefit for us. We can acquire a company, but on the other side, you should see, so there's this entrepreneur building his company for the last 10, 15 years. And then Broadcom comes along and they're just killing his company because, that's the way it's going to go for him. And there's a whole ecosystem and trust being killed. And I do think it will have more impact over the longer term, pushing more people towards open source because they can no longer trust closed source software in their infrastructure for various reasons. Swen, you had a few reasons about security, but I also think just stability of your company going forward.
So we talk a lot with German SMBs. So, and it's really funny because they say, we have 2 years left on our license. We not have a problem at the moment. And they don't get it that it's really a process. You cannot just do the switch on a one day like, okay, now we are on VMware, now we are on a new hypervisor. So sometimes we need to really invest time to explain to them that okay, think at least 1 year advanced to do the process and not as late as you think right now, because then you are in the problem to pay the high prices because time is running out.
It's interesting that you said the word process. So obviously it's a process to migrate away. What is the usual process? Like how much time it takes? And is it something straightforward, or there are some other capabilities in CloudStack which can help and can automate it somehow? Maybe we can discuss a bit about the features which are enabling the easy migration. The volunteers?
It's not an easy migration. The migration tool is helping a lot, but in our experience, you need to really do some testing, look into the customer's case. Okay, is there Linux? Is this Windows systems? What is the availability? Some systems can be down overnight, no problem. Some systems cannot. So you need to figure out another way to migrate, maybe to just build up a new system and migrate only the data. So it really depends on the customer situation.
Yeah, and also, how much of VMware's how many of VMware's offerings they've consumed, right? So, migrating environments that are currently based on NSX is a completely different proposition to ones that aren't, or vSAN or what have you. So there isn't a single answer to that, and everything is a case by case basis. But most organizations have done some sort of migration, probably not on this scale, but of this importance at some stage. And we're finding most organizations are getting this stuff figured and thought about. It's not too scary. It's big.
I just want to add, because I think we are targeting smaller customers than your company. So we really, and not once, several times we heard, I never heard of this, never heard that Broadcom bought VMware. So even there is no awareness of the situation the business is in, and there are, maybe that's typical for the German SMBs. We are really slow to adapt, which brings pros and cons. But sometimes we need to even explain what's happening right now, and we are not really using VMware, so I have not much knowledge in this. But as far as I know, VMware is really good in what they're doing. It's not a feature problem. It's not a software problem. It's really a license problem.
And why migrating to an open source solution? Have you heard any concerns, or all the people are confident that open source is the right way?
We're just passive.
I would have no idea if there's a closed source alternative to VMware. So I think the major hypervisors nowadays are VMware and KVM, and that's about all the options you get. And I think there's Nutanix, which has a hypervisor. I don't know. Based on KVM. and that's it. So yeah, closed source, there's not much else to choose from. Is it still a thing, Hyper-V? Yeah. Oh.
And you have XCP-ng and in the weights stack. But Hyper-V, they also changed the. I'm not an expert at all on this, but what I heard, it was free with a server license, and now they also changed the license system, so you need to pay extra for a specific Hyper-V. No, okay, then I'm totally wrong, and I mean the opposite. No, but as you are, I don't see any hype around Hyper-V. Maybe it's just given it's there and you use it when you have it. I just hear something about VMware and KVM.
So I think the question was about Citrix hypervisor. Yeah. I think the question, concerns about open source, right? So there's always been in the enterprise space concerns about open source because they've got this, a lot of people have got this misconception of everybody sat there in board shorts with no QA going on and security vulnerabilities left, right and center. And I've seen by working in open source for 10 years now is like, that's absolute nonsense, right? And there are projects like that, but I've seen more professional software engineering going on in Apache projects than I've seen in some of the software companies I've worked for. But I think actually what's happened with this is it has finally shown people the risks of using proprietary software. So, vendors are very good at putting a shiny brochure on front of things and lots of presentations and, enablement training and all that stuff, which is important with any software. But does that de-risk their software? No, because if a vendor makes a change in commercial direction, like we've just seen here, or a change in technical direction, there's nothing you can do about it. So I think actually the concerns, certainly I'm hearing now traditionally, it's open source, hey, put our minds at rest. Actually, that's gone because the whole reason people are now coming to CloudStack and other open source technologies is because it is open source. And they've seen what can happen if a vendor does a massive pivot and they're stuck on proprietary software.
And what type of companies are migrating away? Is it just like SMBs which are concerned about the price, or also other types of companies?
Yeah, we see SMBs because this is our target. And they, of course, and as we were told before, you can use your business value because your license costs are going over your income, and then you are, you cannot talk to your customer and say, it's now triple the price because a company we're using the license of is just doing the same. I don't think this is working outside of the VMware world.